Welcome to Teen Pride Book Talks. My name is Lucy, and this is the program on AADL TV, where each episode I take a few minutes to talk about a young adult book that is both inclusive of and representative of folks in the LGBTQIA+ community. The book that I am going to be talking about today is called Ariel Crashes a Train, and this is by Olivia A. Cole. This is a novel in verse. I talked about a novel in verse on the last episode that I filmed of Teen Pride Book Talks. I'm realizing that there's something very compelling about the genre for me. I think that because the author has to think a lot about the way that the words are arranged, and not necessarily word choice, but what words are not included, because the writing is actually poems, that something about that conveys the message in a unique and very powerful way. This novel in verse is narrated from the first person point of view by a high school girl named Ariel Burns. At the beginning of the book, we are introduced to Ariel when she is having to go through a ritual with the knives in a kitchen drawer at her house. She has to tap each one a certain number of times, and everything has to equal 6, and then 64. If she messes up, she has to start over. So right away, we realize that Ariel has some form of OCD. Ariel does not know that what she has is called OCD, but it is very much a big part of her existence right now. And it's more than just counting and circling and tapping, although it is those things for Ariel. The biggest part of Ariel's OCD, the most disruptive to her life, is intrusive thoughts. She has horrible, terrifying, intrusive thoughts that really take up all of her brain space and all of her time. This book takes place at the beginning of summer, and Ariel is all set to work at Wildwood, which is a sort of carnival that comes to town every year. She and her best friend Leah always work there. And Leah tells Ariel that she is actually going to Washington, D.C. with her boyfriend for the summer. So Ariel is upset and thrown off balance by this. At the same time, Ariel's older sister has gone to college, and Ariel lives in like a 2-bedroom apartment with her parents and her sister. They moved there because her parents were actually doing really well, but they wanted to downsize and live in an area that was closer to restaurants and places that they could go at night, because this is what her parents are enjoying doing now. They have one child in college, and Ariel's old enough to be left alone, so her parents go out to dinner all the time. Mandy, Ariel's sister, was really a huge comfort and support system for her. Mandy knew about the things that were going on in Ariel's mind, and though she didn't have a name for it either, she was able to help Ariel feel safe. Ariel's biggest concern is that she's going to act on some of the thoughts that pop into her head, and that she's going to hurt someone. She's going to hurt someone she loves. She worries a lot about hurting her father, or that she's going to hurt someone she doesn't even know. Everything looks like a weapon to her, and every person is a possible person that she could harm. Without her best friend Leah there, who also knew some of the things that Ariel was going through, and without Mandy there, Ariel really has no support system. She's going to do this job that she loves doing, but her mind is in a more precarious place than ever. When she's working at Wildwood, some of the jobs she will have had earlier would be like operating the dart booth, but she doesn't want to hold darts. She's worried that she will hurt someone if she has darts in her hand. A big one is operating this ride called the Locomotive. And Ariel can't get near this ride because she is absolutely convinced that if she's controlling that ride, she will crash the train and she'll harm everyone on it. Thus the title of the book. So this summer at Wildwood, she does make 2 new friends, a girl named Ruth and a boy named Rex. And the 3 of them become really close. And as they start to talk, they realize that they all have things that they're going through, that they're mourning different people and different parts of their lives, and that they all have difficulty at home or misunderstandings with parents. Rex is trans, and his parents worked really hard to make him a girl and to convince him that he was a girl and to bring out his feminine side. Ruth is there for the summer because though she lives with her father in Chicago, he ships her off to her mother every summer, and Ruth is carrying around this huge weight, this huge guilt, because she had a younger cousin who was 11 years old. They were very, very close, and her cousin committed suicide. And Ruth feels personally responsible because she feels like she missed the signs. In the same way, there's a death that Ariel feels personally responsible for, and this was a girl named Felicia who was at school with her. Ariel had a huge crush on Felicia. She really just loved Felicia, and there was a soccer game. Ariel wasn't watching any of the game except Felicia. She only had her eyes on Felicia. Something happened to Felicia. She had like a movement, and then she just fell and she was dead. And it turns out that it was a brain aneurysm. But in Ariel's mind, she thinks that she is personally responsible, that she is this omen, and that because she was staring at her and she saw it happen, she was staring at her before everyone else was, that she should have been able to stop it. In her mind, this becomes this really big weight that she is carrying around. She could never forgive herself for. That compounds her belief that she is a bad person. And then she is riddled with intrusive thoughts that continue to reinforce that. So many of her thoughts are about doing harm to people. Rex had a brother who was suffering from mental illness that his parents didn't understand or really work to help him enough, and he was having sort of a manic episode, and he was killed by the police. So Rex is also mourning someone. The three of them find out that they have these similar paths, although Ariel never tells Rex and Ruth about Felicia. This is such a private pain for her, and it would reveal so much more about the way that her brain works. Because she spends time with them, Rex and Ruth start to see some of the ways that Ariel is really starting to crack. And they get in touch with her sister, and her sister is actually studying psychology at college and learns about OCD and starts to connect the dots and tells Ariel, this is not you. This is something that you have. This is something that is controlling you, but thoughts are not actions. You're not a bad person. It is the way that your brain is working. Unfortunately, Ariel's parents do not believe in therapy. Her father thinks that prayer is the answer. Her mother spends a lot of time believing that Ariel is not the right kind of girl. Ariel's very tall. She's 5'11". Her mother thinks she's too big. Her mother thinks she's too masculine. Her mother is constantly whittling her own self down and talking about being on diets and just getting smaller and sharper, and spending a lot of time focusing on the ways that she doesn't think Ariel is acting like a girl. And then from her father, Ariel gets messages about, you're going to wear those shorts. Those are so short. So there's like a lot of conflicting messaging here. And a big chunk of this book takes a really deep look at gender and the strict definitions that are placed on us by society, by our families. Ariel and Rex have a really interesting conversation where Rex tells Ariel that he understands almost exactly how she's feeling with these intrusive thoughts and this OCD, and just not feeling right in her brain, because he felt that way until he realized that he was trans. And the three of them, Ruth and Rex and Ariel, start to have a lot of conversations about gender. Ariel wants to know, how do you know if you're a girl? She doesn't feel like a boy. She doesn't know if she feels like a girl because she doesn't feel like the type of girl that she's told she should be. She doesn't know if she's non-binary, but what it really comes down to is these really narrow definitions that she can in no way fit into. In her mother's eyes, she's just too tall, and she can't do anything about that. She's too big. She's always going to take up the wrong amount of space. One big part of being a girl, the messaging that is sent to Ariel, is that you will have this spotless, pure mind, that a girl would never think the kind of things that Ariel thinks. And Ariel thinks about her thoughts as this sort of beast inside her. She names it a crocodile. And the crocodile, she feels, really controls her. In fact, in the book, there is a different font, and it's bolder, and it's in a different place on the page when this crocodile mind is speaking to Ariel. And you realize how every interaction that she's in, that crocodile just pops up and says, well, what if you did this? What if you did this? What if you did this? The portrayal of OCD in this book and of the strength and gravity of intrusive thoughts is really well done. And I think would be really eye-opening for readers who don't understand how difficult it can be to manage intrusive thoughts and how horrible they can be. Ariel does learn that her brain will think of the things that she actually would never do. And those are the things that the crocodile just pops up there and starts to plant in her brain. Because of that crocodile, Ariel won't allow herself to be in a relationship. She does have a crush on Ruth for a while, but then she realizes that Ruth and Rex really love each other. But she worries if she allowed herself to let go in any way that she would harm somebody that she was in a relationship with. There is so much in this book about family, about gender expectations, and being a teenager and feeling different and the struggles that that alone creates for Ariel. She gets constant commentary from people she doesn't know about the way she looks. People will ask if she's a boy or a girl. Men a lot of times make fun of her because of her height, as if they feel threatened. She just is never allowed to feel right. And it's heartbreaking. She says at one point, reflecting on a moment when her hair was pulled really hard by a boy when she was younger, and her sister said, that's the definition of being a woman. That's what it is to be a girl. Her sister says, more than menstruation, it's these things that define us as women. If a boy is pulling your hair, that's how you know you're a girl. Ariel goes on in her reflection to say, I just can't agree. I want more from this life and this body than choosing its place based on pain. I saw someone on social media say they knew they were cis because gender was never a squeaky wheel in the bicycle of their identity. But I don't know about that either. My girl wheel is always squeaking. But I don't know if it's because it actually needs oil or because everyone is always putting a stick in my spoke. All I want is to choose. I want to choose what to pick up and what to throw away. I want to wear what fits. I want to donate the rest. I want the thoughts I want, and I want the rest to fall away. And then she goes on to say more, but concludes with the point. The point is, I want to choose. Is that so hard? Jesus Christ, I just want to choose. That passage gives you a feeling for some of the language in this book, the way that it's written in verse that really lends this strength and emotion to Ariel's voice. I really, really loved this book. I thought it was sad. It was frustrating, but it was also full of these really nice moments between people connecting, these really great moments of people realizing their own strength or being allowed to be themselves for a moment. The author, Olivia Cole, in her acknowledgments, talks about how in 2020, she started to really struggle with what was undiagnosed OCD and then really had a difficult time with intrusive thoughts and was able to get help. And that made a big difference for her. But you can see how that is imbued in the writing of this book. Olivia Cole has written other books that I really want to read just for the language and the characters. I'm so impressed with the depth of character that she can provide in a book that is written with fewer words. If you enjoy audiobooks, this is also a great one to listen to. I did both because you really get a sense of how those crocodile thoughts pop up in Ariel's mind. There's a lot more that I could say about this book. There are really interesting connections made for other themes and motifs that run throughout that are more subtle, but I'm just going to urge you to read it so that you can get all of that for yourself. So that is Ariel Crashes a Train by Olivia A. Cole. Thank you for joining me.